Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Let's talk about reports and how we can present some of this data normally to users. So I'm going to navigate here to reports, and we have a couple of different example reports set up here, a couple of dashboards that we've created. There are three different types of reports that use data sets. One is a comparison board, a dashboard, and the last is a data view. So these three all utilize the data from data sets to render their report output. Ad hoc queries are a special type of report that actually query against the live data. And if we have time, I'll try to get into that later. But for right now, I just want to focus on working with this data set data at this point. The first report I'm actually going to show is a dashboard because that one's the typical view that you generate when you're working with reports and charts and graphs. So this might be my admissions dashboard. I'll give it a name here. And then I can select the data set that I want to use to start this dashboard. Now, I'm not limited to just the data in this data set. When I get into my data set editor here, I can add additional data sets if I so choose, so I can pull visuals from other data sets besides this one onto the canvas here. So to add some visuals, I can click the Insert menu, and now I have the option of either using my Discover tool like we did previously, just like we did over in the data set. I can select the column I want to create a visual for. I can adjust the chart type if I like, adjust the series, the grouping, and so forth. And then if I click Add Visual, that's going to put it on my dashboard now. So now I'm able to resize this visual if I need to, make it a little bigger. I can add save visuals. So any of the ones that we had previously saved, I have access to those here. So I can come down here and choose, let's say, the acceptance rate chart. Let's choose that one. My admission type chart. We have some special types of state maps that we've done here. Let's add the one by North Carolina county, and we have maybe we have some sort of application drive for our new pilot program we're offering at our institution. We want to monitor that, so we'll put that on our dashboards. I can just continue to add these visuals as I need and as I want to my dashboard. And then I can rearrange these just by dragging and dropping the visuals where I want them, and they kind of rearrange themselves depending on where you put them and how you resize them. Move that guy there, we'll put him up here, and so forth. So we've got our dashboard in place here. Let's see, I'll resize that a little bit more. There we go. So that's nice and neat. And so once I have that done, then I can save it. And there's my dashboard. And these are, again, interactive, so I can drill down and work with these visuals and interact with these visuals by clicking on the appropriate area. The other type of report that's similar to dashboards is a comparison board. So a comparison board works, again, almost the same way as a dashboard. And I want to do the same thing. I'm going to give it a name and select my data set. And then I can insert visuals here in the same fashion as I did in the dashboard editor. I can use Discover, I can reference Save Visuals. One thing I didn't mention in the dashboard editor is that you can also select the appropriate chart type and configure it however you like manually. I like using Discover just because it starts me off with the chart that I want, and then I can adjust it accordingly from there. So maybe I want to look at ethnicity, so we'll add that chart. Let's look at gender, we'll add that chart. Actually, let's change that to a pie chart. And so I can continue to add charts. I can do, the in-state, out-of-state visual, as well as location. All right, so there we have our visual. I added that gender one incorrectly, so I want to remove that guy. Again, you can access the actions menu here. I can remove that visual from the the comparison board. Now you'll see the comparison board presents the visuals in two columns. And what that allows me to do then is when I'm viewing, after I save that and I'm viewing my comparison board, I can, as an end user, select how I want to do a side-by-side comparison here. So I might want to compare by academic year, for example. So now if I'm choosing by academic year, I can select, say, 2015, 2016 in the left-hand side. So now all of the visuals in this chart or on this side are for this population of data, and then the right-hand side is all the other years, or I can choose a specific year, and now it's going to render the chart based on, or all the different charts based on this year. So now I'm comparing those 2 years side by side. If I want to do multiple years beyond just 2, I can, as an end user, I can add another column and choose the appropriate year there. So I can continue to add those, and then I can clear the user settings, and that goes back to viewing it the way it was originally. Okay, so that's the comparison board. And then the data grid report presents the data in a normal view, so like a normal row column Excel-like output. And what that allows me to do is then select the columns that I want to view in the data view in the report output. So I'm just kind of randomly selecting these different values here. And now I'm able to view this data in a way that I'm only seeing these columns from that data set. And I can, as I'm viewing this, just like I could with the data set, I can sort, I can group the values together, add aggregate groupings for this. So I'm able to do everything with this data view that I could with the actual data set itself, create a pivot table from it, etc. And so the last report type was an ad hoc query. And again, that one is just creating an actual query off of the live data. So using the query designer, we're able to go in and create a query that pulls data from one of my data sources here. Here I can select my applications table from this banner database, and then I can add fields from this database as well as any of the linked files here as well. And let's see, go down here and pick first and last name, etc. So I can just add the fields. I can add criteria to my data set. If I wanted this limited to academic year or term. So I can enter that value if I wanted that limited. Really, that's just a quick way of getting the data, and that's typically used for ad hoc queries is more for workflow specific type processes where you're just needing to get a report of the data, like you're trying to balance payroll, for example, or just see what the data is right then. But typically you're going to be using the data set option to generate your reports. Like I said, the dashboards, comparison boards, and data views are the reports that use the data sets. Now there's another way that you can actually get data into Informer, so you don't have to have the data represented in a database somewhere. You can actually take spreadsheet data and pull that into Informer itself. So I have a spreadsheet that I have here. So we can take this one. So I can pull in one of these data sets here, and I can create, whoops, sorry, I need to move this around just a second so I can get to my window. Resize that a little bit. So I can take this data set or this CSV file or Excel spreadsheet, drag that on to Informer, and it's going to allow me to create a data set from that data. So now I have the data here, and I can then work with this data however I need to, just like a regular data set. So that's pretty much the overview of Informer 5 reports. If you have any questions, feel free to send an email into informersales@intrinsic.com. We're always happy to answer any questions that you may have.